Those cardboard testimonies were powerful, huh? That was really amazing. I was back there biting my ears. It's not unusual for me, but I want to share a couple of things. I want to start with one verse. It's in Acts. This verse, Acts chapter 17, starting with verse 26. It's a verse, if you believe it, it's a pretty amazing verse, and it's a pretty cool verse because wherever you're at, whatever your job is, whoever the contacts, the people you have, if you believe this verse, and if you're looking, I was just in Sunday school with little kids, and we were looking at a verse, and it said, ask. And then that we should look, and we should knock, and then the doors will be open to us. But first we have to ask, and then when we ask, God will answer, and then when we, if we are looking, we'll see it, and then God opens up the doors when we knock. Well, this verse is a life-changing verse. This verse really, when I really got a hold of this verse really changed my life. It says, "For one man he made every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined the time set for them and the exact places where they should live." I believe that. I believe that God determined that I should be born in 1950. I believe that God has done a bunch of things to lead me to where I am today. And where I am today is not an accident. I have a lot of experiences that I've gone through to get to where I am today. The people that I run into, I believe that this verse says that God was instrumental in doing that. And it's not an accident. The next verse, verse 27, says, "God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us." And God did that for me. He brought me, I was my cardboard testimony would say I was very religious and miserable. I was a miserable failure at being religious. I wasn't doing really well. I felt like a hypocrite. And then someone told me that they had a relationship with God and that I could have a relationship with God, and that was something I'd never heard. So I went from being religious to being relational. I got a relationship with God. And they told me that. I started seeking God. I found out that he wasn't far. And then I could just come to him. And that was that I didn't have to do all these works. Let me tell you a couple of stories of how this has worked out in my life. Several years ago, I was sitting I'd gotten drafted, and I was sitting at the draft board, and there was a guy sitting next to me, and I shared with him that I kind of knew him. He was about a year behind me in school, and I knew who he was. And I said, "Max, I found out that being religious wasn't really working for me, and that God says that I could come to him by grace. Grace is something you don't deserve, and that if I just did that, if I just put my faith in Christ and what he had already done, that he would do that. And if I didn't have the faith, even the faith came from God. And it wasn't about all the works I was doing." And Max wasn't really interested. He was just sitting there. And he was polite, but just kind of quiet. He didn't say anything. He didn't want me to talk anymore. He was afraid if I said some more, if he said something, then I would say something. And I just said that But then it was obvious. So I said, good luck. Maybe I'll see you at basic training. And hopefully we never meet in Vietnam. That's a long time ago for you guys. But then I was pastoring in the church, and that was the end of the conversation. It wasn't very good. I was pastoring the church in Berlin about 15 years later. And Max and his wife came to my church. And Max said, you know, Andy, you led me to the Lord. And I said, really? I didn't remember anything about this conversation that we had 15 years earlier. And I said I did, and I thought, well, I wonder, it's usually a very memorable experience when you get to talk to somebody about Jesus and they pray and they receive Christ. It's really pretty exciting. There's talk about high. It was just wonderful when you get to do that. And I couldn't remember this guy. I didn't remember ever leading to the Lord. I've never talked to him. I couldn't even remember talking to him. And so then he shared with me that when I talked to him, that just kind of stuck in his mind, and it haunted him. And he just kept thinking about it, and he couldn't get it out of his mind. And then he went to church. He got married, went with his wife to church, and heard the gospel again. He says, but Andy, you let me go. God had appointed a time and a place that I should be, and appointed him to be there.